This popular TED Talk claims to reveal the secrets to learning a new language, but does it? Today I'm going to see whether the millions of people who have watched this video are being fed good information or if they're being led astray. And at the end of the video I'm going to give this talk my coveted reality rating, which says just how much I think this talk shapes up to the reality of language learning in the real world. If you're new to the channel, welcome back. My name is Ollie Richards and I've learned over 8 languages, so I'm excited to see how the ideas in this talk shape up to my experience. Now the talk is called The Secrets of Learning a New Language by Lydia, given at TED, so let's have a look.
I love learning foreign languages. In fact, I love it so much that I like to learn a new language every 2 years, currently working on my 8th one. When people find out about me, they always ask me, how do you do that? What's your secret? And to be honest, for many years, my answer would be, I don't know, I simply love learning languages.
Every 2 years, so she learns a new language every 2 years. I find it very interesting. It's extremely structured. It's like the polar opposite to how I learn languages, which is like whatever happens in my life, I get pulled this way and that in this very haphazard way. I wonder if this might be a sign of what we've seen before in other videos like this, of an irrational passion for languages. We'll find out.
But people were never happy with that answer. They wanted to know the secret of polyglots, people who speak a lot of languages. And that made me wonder too, how do actually other polyglots do it? What do we have in common? And what is it that enables us to learn languages so much faster than other people?
I love this. This is the idea of learning from people who have already done it before you. Now, last time I pointed this out on a video, I had a very insightful, extremely insightful comment from a certain William Butt who said, "Nonsense, total nonsense. That only works if you learn from an identical twin." Well, William, I'd suggest that actually modeling people that have done things that you want to do is a very, very effective way of learning. And this is what she's talking about here.
I decided to meet other people like me and find it out. The best place to meet a lot of polyglots is an event where hundreds of language lovers meet in one place to practice their languages. And so I decided to go there and ask polyglots about the methods that they use.
I really like this. It would be so easy for her to give this whole talk about what she thinks about languages, but the fact that she's gone to speak to others and find out how others do it is a really nice touch.
I also met Lucas from Brazil, who had a really interesting method to learn Russian. He simply added 100 random Russian speakers on Skype as friends. And then, seriously, and then he opened a chat window with one of them and wrote hi in Russian. And the person replied, "Hi, how are you?" Lucas copied this and put it into a text window with another person. And the person replied, "I'm fine, thank you, and how are you?" Lucas copied this back to the first person, and in this way, he had 2 strangers have a conversation with each other without knowing about it. And soon he would start typing himself because he had so many of these conversations that he figured out how the Russian conversation usually starts. What an ingenious method, right?
That is insane. But that's the cool thing about self-driven, really highly motivated language learners. They don't care what you or I think about their method. They know what works for them and they just press ahead and do it.
All of these polyglots were talking about language learning as if it was great fun. You should have seen their faces when they were showing me their colorful grammar charts and their carefully handmade flashcards and their statistics about learning vocabulary using apps, or even how they love to cook based on recipes in a foreign language. All of them use different methods, but they always make sure it's something that they personally enjoy.
I've noticed when I've done other videos looking at different people's language learning methods, people in the comments can be so critical and dismissive and just say, "Oh, that doesn't work, that must be a lie," or something like that. But it completely misses the point. None of the methods here that Lydia's just talked about would work for me personally, but it doesn't matter what I think, because the hallmark of successful language learners is figuring out the thing that works best for them and just doing it.
I decided to watch Friends, my favorite sitcom, in German. And again, at the beginning, it was all just gibberish. I didn't know where one word finished and another one started. But I kept on watching every day because it's Friends. I can watch it in any language. I love it so much. And after the 2nd or 3rd season, seriously, the dialogue started to make sense.
Now, don't take the wrong lesson from this. Remember, Lydia is experienced. She knows other languages as well. That's why she's able to learn so quickly just from watching Friends. The message here is not that, hey, watching Friends is a language learning method. The lesson to take from this is figure out what works for you, what interests you, what ignites this passion, and then double down on that. For example, when I first started learning Portuguese, I was really into music, so I just learned and memorized and learned how to play all these bossa nova songs. That's not necessarily a method that I would recommend to anybody else, but it did double down on my particular passions.
We are no geniuses, and we have no shortcut to learning languages. We simply found ways how to enjoy the process. how to turn language learning from a boring school subject into a pleasant activity which you don't mind doing every day.
It doesn't seem to matter how many times we say this, but successful language learners, they're not geniuses. They're regular people. They just happen to have ignited this passion and to have found their stride and stick at it.
If you don't like writing words down on paper, you can always type them in an app. If you don't like listening to boring textbook material, find interesting content on YouTube or in podcasts for any language. You can apply the method of self-talk. You can talk to yourself in the comfort of your room, describing your plans for the weekend, how your day has been, or even take a random picture from your phone and describe the picture to your imaginary friend. This is how polyglots learn languages.
Okay, so what she's really talking about here is different learning styles and learning preferences. And the thing is that an experienced language learner can make pretty much anything work because they understand the underlying mechanism through which you learn the language. But for beginners, this can be a bit confusing because it can sound a bit like, oh, well, if you just use this app or if you just watch this TV series, because you like it, therefore you will learn. But it doesn't work like that because beginners need more structure and more guidance. Now, in this talk, which is another TEDx talk that we looked at, we set the challenge of how can we help regular adults who are not experienced in learning languages learn languages in a kind of confident way. And so this is the challenge. This is what I'm going to be interested to see how Lydia deals with here.
So meeting other polyglots helped me realize that it is really crucial to find enjoyment in the process of learning languages. But also, that joy in itself is not enough. If you want to achieve fluency in a foreign language, you'll also need to apply 3 more principles. First of all, you'll need effective methods.
Okay, so she's clearly one step ahead of me. She's already got this covered. She's good.
If you try to memorize a list of words for a test tomorrow, the words will be stored in your short-term memory, and you'll forget them after a few days. If you, however, want to keep words long-term, you need to revise them in the course of a few days repeatedly using the so-called spaced repetition. If you're not sure which methods are effective and what is available out there, just check out Polyglot's YouTube channels and websites and get inspiration from them. If it works for them, it will most probably work for you too.
Now that is a great idea. Channels, in fact, like this one. And if you were enjoying this video, I'd love it if you would like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications as well so you find out about the next video I make like this.
The third principle to follow is to create a system in your learning. We're all very busy and no one really has time to learn a language today. The important thing is to create a plan in the learning. I will practice speaking every Tuesday and Thursday with a friend for 20 minutes. I will listen to a YouTube video while having breakfast. If you create a system in your learning, you don't need to find that extra time because it will become a part of your everyday life.
I found that having a clear plan and clear intentions for exactly what you're going to do in your learning is extremely important because language learning can often feel very nebulous. You know, it's always often not obvious when you're making progress. And so deciding what you're going to do and how you're going to study during your week, it gives you something to hold on to. And so what I'd add to what Lydia said here, which is a really, really important point, is not to choose too many things. Choose a small number, like 1 or 2 things that you do regularly, and then stick to them for long enough to actually see the results.
And finally, if you want to learn a language fluently, you need also a bit of patience.
This is crazy. It's like every time I have an idea, like she mentions it like 10 seconds later. What am I doing here?
I vividly remember the moment when I understood the first joke in German when watching Friends. I was so happy and motivated that I just kept on watching that day 2 more episodes. And as I kept watching, I had more and more of those moments of understanding, these little victories. And step by step, I got to a level where I could use the language freely and fluently to express anything. And this is a wonderful feeling. I can't get enough of that feeling, and that's why I learn a language every 2 years.
What she described there about understanding her first joke in German, I've noticed that like successful language learners can often trace their success back to the first language that they learned and that one moment when they suddenly realize that they were understanding. Because this confidence often is what gives you the confidence to go on and learn a second language or a third language or a fourth language or 8 or however many Lydia speaks. But why I don't get this 2-year thing. Why every 2 years? I guess I'm just like not an organized, structured person, so I guess I just don't get it.
Now, some of you may be thinking, that's all very nice to enjoy language learning, but isn't the real secret that you polyglots are just super talented and most of us aren't? Lucas tried to learn English at school for 10 years. He was one of the worst students in class. His friends even made fun of him and gave him a Russian textbook as a joke and after just 10 years, Lucas is able to speak 11 languages fluently. Does that sound like a miracle? Well, I see such miracles every single day. And I see this every day. People struggled with language learning for 5, 10, even 20 years. And then they suddenly take the learning into their own hands, start using materials which they enjoy, more effective methods, or they start tracking their learning so that they can appreciate their own progress. And that's when suddenly they magically find the language talent that they were missing all their lives. So if you've also tried to learn a language and you gave up thinking it's too difficult or you don't have the language talent, give it another try.
What a fantastic talk. I think Lydia's done a really great job here of describing the true process that polyglots and people that learn lots of languages go through in acquiring their language. And because it's such an important message and delivered so well, I think this is going to get a reality rating of a big fat 10. So good job, Lydia. But of course, most people don't really care about becoming polyglots. For most people, simply learning one new language would be a fantastic achievement. And so if that's you, I think the main message to take from this talk is to experiment with different things. Don't accept your textbook. Don't accept what's in your text. Don't accept what your teacher is taking you through. Experiment with different things and find what works for you. And that is the main challenge, actually, as you can see here from this comment from Samia, who says, the problem with me is that I can't find the method I enjoy. In the beginning, I enjoy it, but eventually it starts sucking. So that is the challenge, but it's also ultimately your job to figure this out because no one's going to be able to make that discovery for you. But if you are looking for different ways to learn languages and you like the idea of learning through stories, then have a look at this video over here. It breaks down a complete method for learning languages through stories, which are great for people who don't really like the old rules-based system and are looking for something a bit more creative, a bit more natural.